name is Linda Dolke. I'm a demonstrator with Stampin'Up here in Australia, and this week my regular Friday video is actually coming out a few days early because I'm off to Onstage in New Zealand, which is Stampin'Up's big training event, and I'm really excited because we're going to get our brand new catalogue. But I'm going to show you today how to make this card. It's actually really simple, but it's a lot of fun to make, and it uses something from your kitchen. So stay tuned and I will show you how it's done. Our project today is this awesome watercoloured scene, which I have turned into a thinking of you card. It could be for maybe sympathy, or it could be for someone going through a tough time and you just wanted to send them something beautiful to lift their spirits. So this is the card that I created. So it is actually very easy, and I have used the waterfront stamp set. I've used this one before for these types of scenes. You may have, if you haven't seen any of those, you'll find them back in my video archives. But I've also done something a little different today. I wanted to create like the idea of a starry sky, and I used rice, just rice out of the kitchen for this. So I'll show you how I did it. It's not difficult, but it's actually a lot of fun, and it's going to turn out completely different. So the card that we do in this video will be completely different to the one I have here as my sample. So let me just pop that aside for the moment, and I've already got my stamps out. All you're going to need, you don't need very much at all. You're going to need an aqua painter or a paintbrush. You can use a paintbrush as well, but I do like using aqua painters because I find them just a really portable way of using a brush. So there's water just from the tap in the barrel here, and I've just screwed that onto the barrel, and then it's ready to go. There's a little bit, if I give it a tiny bit of a squeeze, I can feel the water coming out the end of the brush. The colours that I'm using for my card are Night of Navy, Blueberry Bushel, and Balmy Blue. These three colours. So you don't need very much at all to start. Probably the most important thing you're going to need is some good quality watercolour paper. Now I'm using the watercolour paper that we have here at Stampin' Up. I find it great for these kind of projects, but any heavy duty good quality watercolour paper will do the trick. Okay, I've already gone ahead, just in the interest of time, and put my piece of I've cut my piece of watercolour paper a little bigger than my card front, so you can see it is actually bigger. The reason being is that I'll cut it down later, but I wanted to have enough room to use the masking tape around to keep it in place, because while it's drying, the paper has a tendency to buckle a little. So to keep it flat, I've masking taped it to the table, to the backing sheet. I'm using grid paper, which I find great for working on. I'm going to start with my medium colour, which is the Blueberry Bushel, and there's a number of ways that you could do this, but I quite like to, you can either, when you open it up, you can maybe use one of our acrylic blocks and dip that into the ink, actually ink up the acrylic block and then take your ink from there. Or another way to do it, and quite a popular easy way to do it, is to give it a really good squeeze. These new ink pads, you need to squeeze them a little harder than the old ones, and you'll see that you get some ink pooling here in the lid. And I'm just giving this bit of water a little bit of a squeeze, my brush a bit of a squeeze, to bring through enough water that I can start to get a fair bit of pooling of colour there. So I'm loading up my brush with the colour, and then I'm going to squeeze a little bit of water as I come through, and this is going to create a wash. Now I would like to create here a horizon, so I've actually got a piece of acetate. You could use really any. I'm going to have it down a little bit further than halfway because I actually want the sky to be the focus. Maybe just, yeah, not quite halfway. So I'm going to do that again, and if I needed more ink, I would just close it and squeeze it again. And I'm just going to start at the top again, add a bit more colour, and you can see it's sort of quite rough and very easy to do, but I'm making it quite wet, and that's probably enough for the moment. Then I'm going to come in with my navy, and I'm going to start at the top because I want the top, if you see here, the top is darker, so I'm actually going to make sure I give that a squeeze. And I'm going to go into my darker colour once again, give it a bit of squeeze with the water, and you can see it's a lot darker, this ink, this new colour. Now, keeping that acetate in the same place, I'm just going to start at the top, and I'm sort of fading it into the other colour. if I wanted to, I could add like stripes, because if you think about it, the sky very often looks like it's got like long stripy clouds to it. Now what I'm going to do is, I've actually got straight out of my kitchen cupboard a container of rice, and I'm going to grab a little bit of rice in my hand here, and I'm just going to sort of spread it out. Now you need, for there to be a fair amount of water, you must have added a fair amount of water for this to work well. The rice, somebody asked me the other day what sort of rice. I've just got a Borio rice in there because I make quite a lot of risotto, but you can use any rice. Any rice will work fine. I do find, I don't know if I am right or not, but I had the idea that the Borio rice might be a little bit more absorbent, maybe, because what we're trying to do is we're going to wait for this to dry. I'll work on the bottom while we're waiting for the top to dry, but the whole idea of this is that it will draw out some of the color and some of the moisture, and then you'll be left with kind of very, very subtle little marks, which in this case represents like a starry sky. Okay, I don't know if you can see, maybe you can see there's a bit of shine on this as well. I went back in afterwards and added some Wink of Stella to make it look like a shimmery kind of a reflection here on the water, and the moon is also shimmery, so we'll come to that in a little bit. All right, okay, so now I'm going to take this away, and you can see it's left me with a nice strong horizon, and I'm actually going to now use my waterfront stamps. The ones I mostly use for this is this long thin one here, and this kind of looks a bit like a, I don't know, a swish of a brush maybe. Yep. So I'm going to start with the long skinny one, and I'm going to start with my medium color again, and I'm using, I should have probably had the other blocks handy, but I'm going to put that just below that horizon line, and I'm going to turn it around. I want the thinner edge, and I want them to almost touch. Okay, so you can see they're almost touching there in the middle, and where the acetate was, the water's kind of pulled away from there. You can see that there's less color on that line, and that actually is a really nice look. If you didn't want to add the mountains, you could get away with not having to do that. So I'm actually going to do this again. I'm going to go slightly below, and this time I'm going to go slightly in from the edge, so not going out quite as far into the middle. All right, and same with this one. I'm sticking with the same color for now. And I'm doing the same, so I'm sort of coming in each time, so it's starting to create the shimmer in the middle there. And I turn it around so they're not all the same too. All right, just to give you an idea. Okay, starting to look. Now I'm going to get my ink again. I'm just going to, it's fine, I haven't got too much navy on there from before, and I'm just going to kind of come over with this and blend it all together. You can see it's not hard, and like I said, it's going to end up completely different from what we had before. I'm going to get rid of some of that ink, and I'm going to go with my lighter colour now. So I'm going to ink that up again, and I'm going to come in and so we've got the two colours blending there. Okay, and then I'm going to come in with my lighter colour, sorry, my darkest colour, my darkest one. I'm just going to ink that off, stamp it off, because I don't want it to be too dark, but I want to start darkening up near the horizon. I might turn that one around. I didn't ink that one off, stamp that off, but that's okay. And I'm I'm going to darken that up a little here. If you want to lighten it up at all, what you can do is get rid of some of the colour and then give it a bit more of a squeeze so some of the water runs through, and then just take that off the edges, and that'll actually lighten that up a little. So if you feel it's too dark, you can do that. It's kind of nice though to have the different tones all kind of blending together. All right. Okay, so how's the top going? It's still a little bit to go, still a bit damp, so, but I'm sort of, it's starting to look good down towards the bottom here, and I'm going to get rid of some of these ones down the bottom and let the ones at the top sit for now, because it's a bit wetter up the top where I added more of my wash. This is completely optional. I did use the mountain stamp. I've got it on a block that's really too small, but that's okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just ink up, I'm not going to ink up the whole thing, I'm just going to ink up kind of the top of it, because I don't actually want a mountain that's quite that big. So I'm just going to use the top of the mountain, and where will I do it? Just about here. Okay, and then a second time, actually maybe you stamp it off a little, and then a second time a little further across, so that's a little lighter. I'm doing the same thing over this side. I'm going to stamp it off. In fact, I'll stamp it off twice. You can always come in and go darker, but coming in and going lighter is sometimes more of a problem. See, I've got it nice and light here, and totally up to you. Maybe a little bit again. So it kind of looks like hills in the distance. Now I'm just going to come in here with this, and I actually really like this little bit of white here. I'm going to leave that. And I'm just going to add a bit of colour here as well. You can see how that, and in the very distance it's quite light. Okay, that's looking pretty good. I don't mind that. All right, so in the middle here, totally up to you if you want to come in just with some water and kind of blend it around a little. All right, I'm happy though to leave it like that. I want it to look like a nice silvery trail on the water. Now, if you wanted to, you could go off and get a cup of coffee and really get this completely dry. It is getting pretty dry though. It's pretty close to dry. It's a little bit wet up the top here. You could give it a blast with your heat tool as well. But I'm actually going to say that's pretty close to done. Okay, I'm going to actually take this off. And you can see that the masking tape, if you're very careful about taking that off, it will leave a nice little border all the way around, or depending on what you want to do. I want mine for the front of a card, obviously, so I'm going to be probably cutting it down. Now, sometimes, like it is here, it takes off the surface of your watercolour paper a little. Don't worry about that, especially if you're cutting it down. It's not going to be a big problem. Peel that off. It is worth peeling off using the masking tape, because it keeps it so much flatter and much easier to work with. You'll find it buckles up completely if you don't use masking tape, and that's, I did my first one without masking tape. I just sort of held it in place, but for the purpose of convenience, I think it's well worth it. You can see some of that rice is sticking on there. I'm just going to tap that off. Yeah, I've still got a little bit of moisture up here, but that's okay. I'm not going to worry about that. Get the rest of the masking tape off. Look at that. All right, so it's coming together. The sky's looking really quite interesting. Totally up to you whether you feel that I quite like all the different discoloration in that. I think it's come up really pretty. I did use just a 3/4 inch punch because I wanted the moon to sit kind of above here, about here, so that it looks like the trail is coming from the moon. And I also thought that it was a little bit too white in its own by itself. So I grabbed my smoky slate ink pad, and you can just use a little bit of a dauber or a bit of your, once you get all the blue off the aqua painter, or maybe use a different aqua painter, I just kind of added a little bit of grey, very light smoky slate to the moon, just to give it a little bit of shadow like a moon would have. And I'm just going to add a little bit of adhesive to the back of the moon, and I'm going to pop it right about here. Okay, and I'm also going to use a sentiment. You can use any sentiment you like. The one I've got here lined up to go, I'm using my Night of Navy, the darkest colour, and it's from the Lily Pad Lake stamp set, this one here. So it's this one, Thinking of You with Loving Thoughts and Prayers. I thought that would be a really nice sentiment to use. And I'm just going to pop it right down here in the middle at the bottom, because it looks really pretty. Now the last thing that is totally optional, you don't have to do this, but I thought it looked really cool with a bit of Winker Stella. Also gives that moon a little bit more character. And I'm just going to kind of come in here. It'll pick up a little colour potentially, don't worry about that. But you just want a little bit of shine coming down in the middle there. There we go. Now I'm just going to use my trimmer. Whatever trimmer you happen to have is fine. So I'm making the measurement to be 9.5 centimeters across and just below 14 centimeters long, so about 13.85, 13.9 thereabouts. Okay, and that's measured nicely. It's going to go onto my blueberry bushel piece right here. Oops, I've got masking tape everywhere. And just let me grab that on there. Any adhesive will do this job, and it fits nicely inside that blueberry bushel piece of cardstock. And I've got a piece of Whisper White Thick as my card base. I'll show you this way. And I'm going to, it's just a piece of A4 cardstock cut in half, or if you're elsewhere, you'll be cutting your whatever size cardstock, letter or whatever it might be, cut that in half and then fold it in half again, and that's perfect card size. So pop it all together, and our card is done. These are a lot of fun, so if you love fun backgrounds and watercoloring, you can have a lot of fun doing these. So there's a different version of the same card. It'll come out different every time. I hope you enjoyed it. It's a lot of fun to do. Have a go and let me know what you think. Bye.